take a picture, cut it up into all kinds of shapes, interesting designs, scramble those shapes, and then try to put the picture back together. That, of course, is an oversimplified explanation of the common jigsaw puzzle. If you've ever worked such a puzzle, you know there are definitely strategies that can be employed for putting the puzzle back together. Many keep the box, for example, and maybe have it sitting next to them as they can reference that picture as they're reassembling the pieces. Some will group the pieces by color. They'll just start by putting like colors together. Almost all will find the corners and they begin to build a border. Knowing these strategies, of course, puzzle makers have invented ways to make puzzles more challenging. They print different pictures on the front and the back of the pieces, so as they get scrambled, you're not really sure which picture you're working on. Some just have blank pictures, right? So it's just no picture on, just shapes cut out. So you just got to work with the shapes that you have. Some are three-dimensional puzzles. Puzzles are sometimes given with almost all the same color. So again, trying to find those strategies that you might employ to make assembling the puzzle or reassembling the puzzle easier are frustrated. One of the easiest ways to frustrate puzzlers is to make the puzzle with no edges. In many ways, we could compare life to a jigsaw puzzle. And while there are many challenges to getting the pieces to fit just right, I can affirm this. Unlike those folks that are trying to challenge us and make the puzzles harder, God is not trying to trick us or to trip us up. The puzzle of life does have a border. It does have edges. So we might not always know the quote-unquote picture of the life that's forming with us, through us. The colors may blend together. Maybe they'll disappear altogether. But we can know a good starting point. There is a strategy, if you will, that can lead us to begin and then to take a next step. In this way, the infinite game is not about having everything figured out. But the infinite game of life is not about having it all clear at the beginning. It's about taking the next move, right? It's about starting and taking the move that makes sense next. Taking these moves with God again and again and again. So here's my advice for the puzzle of life. Find the corners. Start with the edge pieces, and then take your next move from there. If you begin with that strategy, I believe you're going to find that it can still be difficult, can still be hard, but we'll know where to start, we'll know what to do next, at least potentially so. Here's how the Galatians, Paul, an apostle, a follower of Jesus, right, a disciple of Jesus, trying to start churches in the early beginning of the church, writes to the Galatians, this fledgling community, right, writes to them. And here's how Paul puts the idea of starting with the edge pieces. Get the corners set, start building your border. In Galatians 6, Galatians 6, verses 9 through 10. So let us not grow weary in doing what is right. For we will reap a harvest at the right time if we do not give up. So then, wherever we have an opportunity, let us work for the good of all, and especially for those of the family of faith. Let us not grow weary in doing what's right. Whenever we have an opportunity, let's do good. Let's be about doing good. So if you're not sure what to do with your life, if you're not sure what you might do next, Not certain what to make of the news, not certain what's going on in your family or work or school. You're not clear how everything's going to work out. Start with the corners. Do what's right. Work for the good of all. But let me nuance that just a little bit, right? That might seem a little, oversimplified. Do good. Let's nuance that just a little bit with some additional scripture, some bonus scripture, if you will, that might help us connect these pieces one to another, that our border might begin to take shape. Psalm 37, ancient songbook of the church, right? These prayers, these songs of the church. Psalm 37, verses 23 to 24 come to us this way. Our steps are made firm by the Lord when he delights in our way. Though we stumble, we shall not fall headlong, for the Lord holds us by the hand. Again, you're uncertain? Take a step, trusting that God's going to help. God's going to hold you by the hand and help you take those steps. God's with you. Here's another piece. Matthew chapter 6, verse 34. So do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring worries of its own. Today's trouble is enough for today. Again, not sure about the future? Forget about it, right? Stay focused on today. That's not that we don't make plans. That doesn't mean that we don't work toward the future, but we're not going to worry about the future. We're going to focus on what's right in front of us. Take the next step. These passages, all taken together, the Galatians, Psalm 37, Matthew 6, if you take these, they all they're neighbors, right? They all kind of live together. They're all trying to tell us something similar. Don't quit. Take that step that's in front of you and trust that God is going to steady your feet along the way. Have you seen the movie What About Bob? I'm thinking about it when I'm thinking about taking these steps. Bill Murray, a comedic actor, plays the title character Bob. He's a man seeking help for crippling anxiety, right? So he goes to a therapist. His therapist is played by Richard Dreyfuss. You've already got this dynamic, right? Bill Murray, Richard Dreyfuss. This is going to be good. Dreyfuss's character introduces Murray's character Bob to this philosophy of baby steps. Bob begins to take that advice literally in the movie. So as the session ends, this first session, he's been introduced to the baby step concept. Bob literally begins taking baby steps back into the world. I've got this quote actually on a little inspirational thing that I've got in my office. Let me just read the dialogue from the movie and imagine Bill Murray, taking these little bitty steps as he's leaving a therapist's office. Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps through the office, baby steps out the door. It works. It works. All I have to do is take one little step at a time, and I can do anything. If you haven't seen the movie, I invite you to take a look at it. It gets ridiculous, as you might imagine. This idea of taking baby steps, though, is, if you don't see the movie, just take that with you. Just incremental movement over time will get you where you want to go. Baby steps can seem silly. They're easy to discount. You're not really making, much progress if you're just ooching your way forward. But that only is true, that we only discount that kind of movement if we forget the kind of game we're playing. Again, we're contrasting in this series the difference between infinite games and finite games. And I'm drawing on the work of Simon Sinek, who himself is drawing on the work of Dr. Stephen Kars. This idea that there's two types of games. There's the finite game where you know the players, you know the rules, there's a scorecard, there's a time clock, right? There's a fixed, bounded finite set of ideas that guide and direct those kinds of games. And then there's the infinite game. And the point of the infinite game is not to win in the classical sense of beating your competition. The point of an infinite game is to continue to play, right? With integrity over time to keep the game going. It's an infinite game, right? So in infinite games, there's a difference when we think about baby steps. Finite games, we're going to fixate on the perfect way to do something. We're going to fixate on the final score. In the infinite game, the game that I'm suggesting that we are actually playing when it comes to our life, when it comes to our connection to God, faithfulness will beat flash every time. Growth, even incremental growth, will beat the grand gesture. The win is to keep playing again. One step, one day, one act, right? Just moving, keeping the game going. So in life, the idea is just take the next faithful step. Why? Because faith almost never gives us the whole map. We're just going to take one step because we don't always know. Most of the time, we don't have the full picture. We don't get, a compass and all of the trails, and all we can see is just a little bit ahead of us at best. So we've given some direction. Love God, love our neighbor. We just take the next step into that. Not 10 steps, right? Just the next step, the one step that we can do today. Galatians, don't grow weary in doing good. Just keep doing the good that you can do right now. Psalm 37, God makes our step firm, catches us when we stumble. So just keep going, trusting that God's with us. Jesus saying in Matthew 6, today has enough to keep us busy. Just focus on today. Focus on this day, this moment, the next choice. I mean, it makes sense, but I think we can struggle. We can find it difficult to take the next step. Sometimes we get stuck. We stall. Why? Well, there's a few reasons that I can think of, a few that come to mind. I'm certain you can think of others. Perfectionism. If I can't do it right, if it's not going to be perfect, might as well just not do it. Don't want to do it at all. The translation there is we're kind of waiting for some perfect step to materialize, some mythical tomorrow that everything is all figured out, but it is a myth. It's not going to develop that way. Another reason we can get stuck, or another reason why we don't take those steps that we know we can take, is comparison. I've talked about this with us before, but I'm drawn back to it here. We see people's highlight reel, and it makes it feel as if our next step, maybe a baby step, is just meaningless, right? We look at others around us, and we see how successful, quote unquote, right, they are, and we think, why even try? We just compare ourselves to others. Or sometimes there's just this heightened sense of doom, right? We just think about the catastrophe, right, of what the future is or might become, and we think something along the lines, well, if I take the wrong step, everything's going to fall apart. If I take the wrong step, I'm doomed. The gospel, the good news of Jesus, right, that Jesus became one of us, one with us, who lived and taught and died and was resurrected so that we could enjoy the infinite game, eternal life. The good news is that mercy meets our perfectionism, right? We're not called to be without flaw. We're called to love. We're called to take our step, to do what we can do with who we are, where we are. The calling that God places on our life, right? To the unique ways in which we're wired and our experiences and our passions, our talents, our dreams, right? Our calling, if you will. It helps us with that comparison. I don't need to be them. I need to be the best me. Right? God has created me. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And guess what, friends? So are you. So we don't need to be each other. We need to be authentically ourselves. Don't need to compare. Lean into the way God has shaped us, formed us. God's providence, right? God's provision, protection, guidance answers the idea of thinking about a catastrophe breaking out. We don't need to go to the worst case scenario because God's with us, right? God, as bad as it gets, however bad it gets, God will be with us, right? And that should give us hope. That should give us courage. That should give us strength for the facing of whatever comes. Not to minimize it, not to pretend it doesn't exist, but to know we're not alone in it. And friends, I think for me that in my life has been the greatest good news, right? When we're talking about loving God and loving our neighbor, it almost feels like something we have to generate. But let us remember, we love because God first loved us. We are loved, beloved, right? Wonderful children of God. And all we're asked to do is be faithful in the moment we're given, this moment right now. So if we're going to be faithful, then how do we discern what step to take? How do we begin to say, okay, I can do it. I'm going to take a step, maybe just a baby step. How do I begin? Where do I go? What do I do? Well, here's a simple and maybe something we could just practice, a repeatable way to find what your next step might be. Think about maybe these as the corners, right? Just start with love. Again, that might seem a little cliche, right? a little oversimplified. Start with love. But that is the beginning and the middle and the end of all that we do. So starting there is a good idea. Will my next step, my next action, my next thought, my next whatever, right? My next piece, will that step help me love God? Will it help me love my neighbor? There's a kind of a rubric or a criteria here we're employing. When I say start with love, what I'm saying is as I live my life, will the choice that I'm making now help me become more loving toward God, toward my neighbor? If yes, then right, we've got the edges that are being framed for us. And as you take those kind of steps, then you're going to ask, is this producing what we call it, in the faith, fruit, quote unquote fruit? Is it producing the kind of life that we see modeled in Jesus? Is this the kind of life that the Spirit granted to us by Jesus? Is it the kind of life that Spirit is helping us grow into? Does this step toward love result in more love? Does it result in more joy, more peace, more patience, more kindness, more gentleness, more generosity, more faithfulness, more self-control? Right? That's back in Galatians, just a little before we read, Galatians 5. Don't give up doing good, right? That comes next. There'll be a harvest of this fruit that we read in the chapter just before. Start with love and then check in. Is this producing the kind of life that we're invited to help grow? And then don't get too far afield, right? Don't worry about having everything figured out. Don't worry about all the other things that let's be honest, that beyond your control. Just stay within the moment. Stay within today. What can I actually do in this moment? What can I do before I go to bed? What can I do, right, in the next hour that I have? What can I do within the next 48 hours, right? So again, it's not that we're not moving into the future. We are, but we don't have to have, right, our entire life charted out. Just what can I do? What's the concrete thing I can be working on, moving toward, acting on in this moment? And when at all possible, don't go alone. Right? Bring a friend. Jesus sends out the disciples. If you read the story of the Gospels, they go out 2 by 2. Right? There's something about us being connected one with another. When we're talking about this puzzle piece, it turns out that we're actually meant to build a puzzle together. So tell somebody about the step you're taking and invite them to share. Maybe they're taking a step too, right? And this is this kind of the mutual encouragement that we can offer one another. Where true friendship looks like being able to support each other and help each other. And that accountability can turn into the intention to make a movement. I've shared this with you before. Sometimes when we make our plans, we just keep them to ourselves. It's easy for us to say, yeah, I'm just not going to get to that today. Or, yeah, well, I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's cold. I'm tired. I'm whatever. And it's easy for us to not do the thing that we really feel we want to do. But when we start inviting other people into our steps, when we start inviting other people into the plan that we're trying to follow, then there's automatically an accountability built into that. Especially if you invite your friend to say, check in with me about how this is going, and I'm going to check in with you about how this is going, and you're going to share your life together in such a way that you're going to be motivated so that you can say to your friend, hey, I did it, right? So hold each other accountable that way. Again, I'll be coming to the par here in just a moment, but do not neglect the prayer piece of this. I'm ending with prayer as kind of a border piece, but prayer should be throughout all that we do. Praying about our next step is critical, crucial, important. Lord, guide my step. We'll change the posture of our heart from, I got it all figured out, or it's all on my own strength, or I'm going to be the one that's in control of this or has to figure it all out. Lord, would you help me take this next step? Would you help me seize this moment? And then do it, right? And then do it, knowing that God is going to hold your hand, as we heard, help you in the infinite game. One of the things that we nuance here versus the finite game is the only failure is to stop, is to quit, is to end the game, right? So we're going to learn by doing. We're going to learn by walking, by taking these steps. And some of the steps won't work out. Some of the steps we will stumble, right? That's something we need to address and think about. So you don't need to fix everything in your marriage, right? But you could send a text or start a conversation or ask for forgiveness. You can schedule time with a counselor, right? Just take a next step. You don't have to fix everything in a broken relationship or a struggling relationship. Caveat, it's okay to work on your marriage when it's not in crisis. Right? Plan date nights, go on vacations together, spend time, working on what brings each other joy. You don't have to become a new person by next week. Right? So I think sometimes my view of time has been compressed. That's part of why we're engaging this series, thinking about an infinite game. Infinity is a long time, right? It's forever. But maybe instead of trying to be a new person next week, maybe I just take the step that moves me closer to being the person I want to be. I make that meeting. I throw away the stash. I install the blocker. I take the walk. Right? I delight in God. I enjoy a Sabbath. I begin to form these habits over time that lead me into being the kind of person that's more loving, more kind, more generous, right? The fruit piece again. I don't have to solve every problem in the world. I don't have to solve the housing crisis, hunger crisis, all the wars, all the injustices, but maybe I could make one call. Maybe I could deliver a meal. Maybe I could learn a name. Maybe I could show up to volunteer one more time. I don't have to do it all. I just get to do the thing, right? Just do that one thing. as it comes to these spiritual practices, right? You don't have to have a 24-hour prayer vigil. You don't have to read the Bible cover to cover today. But you could pray a psalm, right? Go back to the Psalm 37 that we lifted up. You could read a devotional, whether that's on a Bible app, the Country Club app, in the Upper Room, Guideposts, some other resource that you're using. There's not a shortage of devotional material, of scriptural material. Maybe it's joining that group and entering into that discussion, right? You just take the one next step. Small steps are not side quests, right? They're not detours, they're not red herrings or rabbit trails. Small steps are how God forms us over the long haul. And that's ultimately what we're after, right? To become more and more like Jesus, to live into this love that God invites us. Seed by seed, step by step. Galatians here, Paul's metaphor, God is growing a harvest that will be gathered if we don't give up. So let me underline that, a piece that I think that I mentioned, but I'm hearing it, I need to come back to it. Psalm 37 promises that we will stumble and be caught. It's not when, but, right? It is when, it's not if. We're going to trip. We're going to have difficulties. Sometimes our next best move might not be clear or obvious. And when we do trip up, we don't need to expect some great finish, some great flourish again. We're just going to get back up. We're going to try it again. We're going to take another step. That's the whole thing. Right? We're not going to beat ourselves up. We're not going to beat each other up. So again, that accountability piece is really helpful here, because this is where we can say, hey, that didn't really work out. Right? That didn't feel good, or I really made a mistake here. And you can process through it. You can work through it, and you can have some support. You could, again, prayer is a big piece of this. Make amends if it's necessary. If you've got to start the day over at 2:37 in the afternoon, right? You had great intentions in the morning and things just got off the rails. Start over. It's okay to say, whoa, that's not who I want to be. That's not where I want to go. That's not what I want to do. Lord, direct my step, right? The Lord is going to hold you. That's what the promise is. So here's our par for the week. Here's what I'm going to invite us to do and think about as we move forward. Just focus. Our prayer is where we're going to start with. We're going to pray for focus, a next step. God, would you reveal a next step? Not the whole thing, right? Spirit, where could you lead me? Where are you inviting me to go today? What are you inviting me to do in this moment? And then just sit, right? Again, one of the things that I do not do well in prayer is to ask and then listen. God will answer, but we've got to listen. We've got to stop. We've got to stop talking long enough to hear the Spirit speak into our lives. So maybe something will bubble up, right? Maybe there'll be a picture or a person or a name. Something will begin to emerge if you wait on the Lord, right? If you wait for the answer. And once you get that focus, that next step, act. Within the next 24, 48 hours, make a plan to take that step. Call that person. Show up at that place, do that thing. Whatever it is that's emerging for you, make take a specific action, a step, something you can do, 5, 10, 15 minutes, right? Again, we're not trying to solve the world's problems. We're taking a baby step, a little step, an incremental movement closer to God. Maybe you're going to put it on your calendar. Maybe you're going to tell somebody about it so that they can help hold you accountable and encourage you. And then do it, right? Act. You're going to pray, you're going to act. And then this piece I keep coming back to that I think is so critical for us is the reflection. This is, I think, where the learning can really happen for us. We become more in tune with what God's doing in us and through us. So this reflection piece. Just check in, 2 minutes. Maybe it's at the beginning of the day. Maybe it's at the end of the day. What did I feel yesterday? Or what did I feel today? Right? Depending on when you're doing that. What step did I take? How did I see God in the middle of it? Where did I feel like I was stumbling, but God helped me, right? And then especially if you're doing this at the end of a day, you might say, Lord, help me think about my next step. My next step. Celebrate the step we've taken, right? Yay! But then we ask, okay, I've taken that step, what's next? And so that's a great way to end a day, reflecting upon how things have gone and then asking for the next piece. Again, infinity is a long time. We don't need a master plan. We don't have to have it all figured out. We don't have to understand the whole puzzle to be faithful. What we need is to start, to take a step, placing the pieces when we can. And I'm suggesting let's start with the edges. Let's get those corners in place. Start with the edges. The best move, take our next best move, whatever that could be, these tiny acts of love, and when you can, take the next, right? Moving deeper and deeper into the love of God. Would you pray with me? God, it is indeed our desire and our intention to play this infinite game with you, that we will change the way in which we understand success, winning, the score. Instead, God, what we want to do is we want to keep growing with you, keep showing up, keep taking next steps, keep being transformed into Christ, right? To be more and more like you, more and more like Jesus, empowered by the Spirit. Will you help us? Just take the next step. Show us the edges, right? Show us the piece that fits next so that the picture that you have created for us begins to emerge. It's in the name of Christ and by the power of the Spirit.